This is Money, Motivation, and Mike, and I am your host, Michael Wainwright. In charge of the mothership, as always, is Jason Wright, the auto engineer. And hello to you, world. This is the show that will change your life. Please contact us at our website, MX3.VIP. Go and give us our likes, subscribes, and hit the bell button at the youtube.com/@MX3 podcast. And always email us, info@mx3.vip. Please give us all your comments, your questions, and maybe some of the answers that we're not coming up with on a regular basis. But I'm anxious to get into today's episode. It's probably, Jason, going to be a couple of parts here. And, you know, we talk about on this show about success stories and the money, the motivation, and the mic. Well, the mic part is coming to you right now, but with nothing more than the Warren Buffett and the Berkshire Hathaway story. And we talk about success, as I say on this show, and here is one of the greatest success stories of all time, and one of the big companies that you think about when you're thinking about investing, and for the most part, and absolutely when it comes to success. So the reason Berkshire Hathaway is on my mind today is their annual board meeting was last weekend. And at that meeting, it's a unique situation. You know where, and a lot of other companies do this, I'm sure as well. But Berkshire Hathaway, being who they are and what they've become, their corporate shareholder meeting is broadcast on MSNBC. That's where I watched it last weekend. It is brought to the masses. They have all the vendors of the companies that they have holdings in, some of those of which we're going to touch on here in a few moments. And then they have a question and answer, which none other than Warren Buffett. And it is so, Jason, it's such a just calm, it's nothing formal at all. I mean, they're sitting there at a desk and they got a mic in front of them. There is no introduction. I thought it was great. You know, here's the big bad Warren Buffett. No introduction. He sits down at the table, a little 8x10 table, and let's get going. And hey, what's the first question? Let's go over to this side and get a question. And there'll somebody go to the mic. And then the other person that's there at the table with Warren Buffett is Charlie Munger. And Charlie Munger is the co-chairman. Warren Buffett is the chairman. Charlie Munger is the co-chairman. I want you to think about this. Warren Buffett is 92 years old, and he had enough stock by 1965 to become the CEO and basically the operator, entrepreneur of Berkshire Hathaway. Charlie Munger is 99 years old, and he joined as the co-chairman and the lead investment counsel in 1978. So these two boys, they know a whole lot about each other, and they work hand in hand. And frankly, I watched most of the board meeting and the question and answer, and I was really surprised at how much Warren Buffett leans on Charlie Munger. And I was very surprised at how much knowledge and experience Mr. Munger has. It's an incredible story, and it's something that not only the short time we have here and probably another episode as we go, but it's something that you are to research and get into and find information. And like we always say, you want to be successful, find someone that has success. There's not a better story than this one right here. And we're going to get into this. And you understand that Berkshire Hathaway is really not a company that makes or creates a product. What Berkshire Hathaway is a holding company. And its whole primary business is holding and controlling the interest in the securities of other companies. A holding company usually does not produce goods or services itself. And theirs is the same way. Its purpose is to own shares of the companies and to form a corporate group called a holding company. And in this particular case, it's Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated. And Berkshire Hathaway goes way, way back to 1839, when the company was originally called Valley Falls Company. And they were that name from 1839 to 1929. And then they became Berkshire in 1929. And at that particular time, the company was holding on. And the company has been in the Omaha, Nebraska area for all of its adult corporate life, if you will. And obviously that's where the Nebraska Furniture Mart will come into play, which is a big holding of Berkshire Hathaway. But you know, along the way, a lot of things have changed at the Berkshire Hathaway area. And just thinking about the fact that their Class A stock has never split, and that is at the desire of Warren Buffett, who has always expressed an opportunity for the long-term investor, not the short-term investor, the long-term investor. So the stock is never split. And what people think is that I'm going to get into this stock, it's going to go up to $10, $15, it's going to split, it'll come back down to half, and then it'll rise again, and then they sell because now they have a 2-for-1 deal. And obviously, two shares at $10 is more than one share at $15. But the Berkshire Hathaway Class A stock has never split. And while it has never split, it has continued to gain force in a big-time way for a long, long time. And I'm going to give you an example here as just right off the bat of what kind of monies have been made in the Berkshire Hathaway family just over the last 55 years. Well, actually 58 years to be exact. And another big event that happened on this last Saturday while the Berkshire Hathaway stockholder meeting was going on was the UK, what I like to call the Kingdom of England. They brought in their new monarchy, who Prince Charles is now called King Charles. And the reason I bring him up is, just like I say, in 1965, Warren Buffett became the CEO and chairman of the board of Berkshire Hathaway. And in 1965, now King Charles, then Prince Charles, but now King Charles, invested $1,000 in Berkshire Hathaway Class A stock. At that time, 1965, the stock was still $19. Now, maybe there wasn't a whole lot of stock on the out and been issued at that time, and I don't really know what the stock amount of issued stock was, but the stock was at $19 in the year 1965 when Prince Charles at the time bought $1,000 worth of that stock. Today, Jason, $19 stock never has split. Class A is worth $491,840 a share. $491,840 a share. Now, we talk about doubling our money, tripling our money. All right, that would be 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, whatever it is. And I'm going to go these low numbers because we all can comprehend that stuff. Since 1965 through current day, when I say current day, within the last week, here we are, May the 11th of 2023. That stock has went up and it has gained 25,886 times. Not 2 times, not 10 times, not 20 times. 25,886 times this stock has went up from the $19 a share in 1965. So today, Prince Charles, King Charles, let me quit disrespecting him by calling him Prince Charles. He's now the King of England. King Charles, his $1,000 stock in Berkshire Hathaway, bought at $19 a share in 1965, is now at a staggering $26 million. So when he's riding around in that buggy, that carriage, whatever it is over there that they do, when he's riding around that carriage on Saturday and actually being crowned the King of England, his $1,000 was also riding around at $26 million. Okay, now we started thinking about this, and that particular fact was, I read this after the meeting, and the person who wrote the article, and I don't have that individual's name in front of me, and so I'm sorry that I can't recognize that person, but in 1965 to 2023, we basically have had a $26 million gain. And as the guy said, who was given the King Charles example, that's probably about the amount of the cost of one leg on the throne that King Charles now sits on. So that is a funny fact. And to us, $26 million is astronomical. It's a number that most people can't even fathom. Most people don't even know how many zeros and commas are in $26 million. And the funny fact is that Prince Charles is sitting over there on the throne, and probably one of his legs on that throne is worth $26 million. They do know how to waste the money over there, Jason, whatever that's worth. But good stuff, good facts. There's your Prince Charles and Warren Buffett comparison here over the last weekend. Now, some of the things when they were going through and they're talking about the illustrations, and like I say, they open it up for question and answer. And one of the things that was really, really impressive to me in this question and answer session was all of the people asking the questions were young. I don't think they had a person over 30 years old that was able to ask a question. There was no 50 plus individuals up there asking questions. These people were fresh into their careers, fresh out of college. And what's intriguing is every one of these people obviously owned stock in Berkshire Hathaway, and some of them would talk about how long they have owned Berkshire Hathaway stock. All of them were in the teens. Now, not knowing where they received their initial stocks in, and actually in this particular case, it'd be fractions of stocks, percentages of stocks in the Berkshire Hathaway family. But all these teenagers, when they were teenagers, they owned Berkshire Hathaway stock. And there was somebody there in the mid-late 20s that had owned Berkshire for a good 10 years. And very, very knowledgeable. It was a very, very big deal. I was very, very impressed. And regardless, it is a great success story from where they came from to now having 383,000 employees and starting out and being a textile type company and running textiles and a failing business at that matter. Now, here is another interesting fact that a whole lot of people do not know. And like I say, Warren Buffett comes along, starts buying stock in 1962 and starts to get a decent amount of stock. The textile market was faltering. They were closing mills, which is one of the reasons that Buffett got involved, because it seemed like every time they closed a mill, they became less overhead and their price did increase, even though their business was reducing. And there was a gentleman that ran the company at that time, and his last name was Staton. And he made an offer in 1964 to buy back Warren Buffett's stock, all of his stock, because Mr. Buffett at that time had increased his stock to the point where he was the second largest stockholder of Berkshire Hathaway. So in 1964, they made Buffett a tender offer of $11.50 for his shares of stock, of which Warren Buffett agreed to the deal. Warren Buffett is getting out of Berkshire Hathaway in 1964. A couple of weeks later, Buffett received his paperwork. Back in those days, it wasn't emailed over to you right then. It wasn't faxed over to you. It took process. And even though you were going to do this transaction, a couple of weeks later, you get your mail and your tender offer in writing so that you can accept. But Mr. Staton along the way tried to pull one over on Buffett that he didn't really think he would catch, and nevertheless, it wasn't that big of a deal. So that $11.50 tender offer comes over at $11.37.5. $11.38. That's $11.37.5. This made Buffett mad. Over 12.5 cents. 12.5 cents a stock share. This made, well, as a matter of fact, the word is he was pissed, putting it mildly. So Buffett did not take the tender offer. He was mad. He was angry. He rejected, because the guy had tried to pull one over on him at 12.5 cents a share. And what Buffett originally then do, he started buying more and more and more Berkshire Hathaway stock. And the whole purpose was to be able to get control of the company so that he could fire Staton, which he did. Now, here we are in 1965 when Warren Buffett's becoming chairman of the company. And as Buffett says, I now let my principles and my pride and ego get in the way of good business decisions, which we all do that from time to time. You wouldn't think Warren Buffett does, but see, everybody's human and everybody makes mistakes. So now Buffett is the CEO, the majority stockholder of Berkshire Hathaway. And unfortunately, it's a failing textile business. So instead of continuing to buy textiles and try to do these mills, etc., he turns this thing into a holding company. And that's how we are today with Berkshire Hathaway. That close to Mr. Warren Buffett. Now, obviously, he would have went on and he would have done other things. But, as the story goes, one of the reasons he went out and tried to do other things is because the textile company was not going to make him a living, was not going to make the money that he so thought he would deserve and be a part of in his future. So he was forced to go do something else. And it brings me to a learning lesson here in our lives where we need to go do something else and we don't go do something else because not enough pressure has been put on us to do that. Not enough unfortunate things have came that way. You take Warren Buffett here, for example. He went out and did it beforehand. Now, he still had cash flow. He still could keep the boat above water, if you will. But at the end of the day, he was looking and staring a sinking ship right into the face. So he started doing other things with his company. And like I say, turned it into a holding company of which we know and love and admire to this day. So over 12.5 cents and being pushed into an industry that he really did not see a long-term future with. That's how you end up with Berkshire Hathaway. You just never know what tomorrow holds. And so what you don't need to do is wait till the end of the day when you are forced to do something else. Yes, in his own way, Warren Buffett was forced into going and doing such an act of turning his company into what it is today. But you don't need to sit around until you get the pink slip. You don't need to sit around until you're in the unemployment line. You don't need to sit around until your house, your cars, etc., are in foreclosure. You don't need to sit around until unfortunate things come your way. You got a lot of people depending on you, your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, whomever they are. So the point to all this is go out and make something happen. Now, I know your name's not Warren Buffett. There's only one of those. And he's still ticking hard here at 92 years old. But the opportunity is out there for you to go out and do big time things. And let's look at what they were able to acquire from being forced into going out and doing things. And just a couple of the companies that go along. Berkshire Hathaway, obviously in the real estate, they're in the insurance, they're in the products, they're into retail, they're into computers, etc. And just a few of those things. I mean, we all know that Nebraska Furniture Mart, and not getting into that story because that's a story in and to itself. But yes, Nebraska Furniture Mart is one of their largest holdings. And that company is a long-term story of Mr. Buffett and Nebraska Furniture Mart being across the street and him going over and trying to buy that company for years and finally did. One of their holdings. Most people don't know that Flying J, the truck stops going around the country, Berkshire Hathaway owns 80% of the holdings of the Flying J. Every time you buy gas at a Flying J, every time you see those truck stops. And one of the things that we're going to get into here, and one of the things, and I can't remember if it was Mr. Munger or Mr. Buffett that said this, but when investing in a product, you need to invest in one that is rare. Well, gas is kind of rare. We always need it. We're always trying to get it. We're always trying to produce it. But going up and down the highway, there's only so many places that you can get gasoline. And we know all the major brands. So here we are, the people who probably use more gas than anybody, those big old trucks and semis going up and down the road. And Berkshire Hathaway owns the Flying J, 80% of that company. They also own Kraft Foods, Heinz Company, 26.7 in both of those because they have been put together. And American Express, they own 18.8. Every time you're using an American Express card, every time they're being charged by the vendor, Berkshire Hathaway is getting paid. They own Bank of America, 11.9% of Bank of America. And then an astonishing 9.32% of the Coca-Cola company do they own. And of course, he's always going to have to be involved in something. And now, knowing that Buffett and Bill Gates are such friends, and Bill Gates is a Microsoft person all the way, I was surprised to find out that Berkshire Hathaway owns 5.57% of Apple. I guess it doesn't really matter. Your loyalty is into the almighty dollar. Your loyalty is to the stockholder. Your loyalty is to the people that are loyal to you and helping them succeed and make money. And obviously they have done that, and they have done it in a big time way. So from the Valley Falls Company to Berkshire Hathaway, here we are in 1839, coming up on getting very close, within 15 years plus of their 200th anniversary of this company that is one of the largest on the S&P 500, the S&P 100, Class A stock, Class B stock. Class A stock is never split, like I talked about, on and on and on and on and on. Now, the trading symbol, and obviously you in this day and age, Google is there, but it's BRK.A for Class A stock. So if you want to own part of the stock that is worth, on the average, $500,000 a share, there's your opportunity to do that. Now, as I can see, I've hardly even gotten into my notes here, and I know that the show is already probably over our 17-minute timeline. So, the wonderful audio engineer told me I've already been talking for 22 minutes, and I don't even like to talk, Jason. And we're already 22 minutes in without all your foo-foo music and all these other things. So we're going to have to call this one to an end right here, and then we'll come back, because obviously I have a whole lot more to talk about when it comes to the Berkshire Hathaway, the success story, one of the success stories of an all-time classic. And these are the kind of things that I like to do here at Money, Motivation, and Mike. I like to bring the stuff that so many people are probably not totally familiar with. We know the name. We know the stores. All of you been to a store that the Warren Buffett companies own, and the Berkshire Hathaway stockholders own. And then we're just trying to bring you some of that information so you realize who's making a profit whenever you're buying their product or their service. But once again, comments, questions, all the goodies, info@mx3.vip. Our website, mx3.vip. Visit our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@mx3 podcast. Don't forget, please give us your likes, your subscribes, and hit the bell icon. And get us notified. The icon will get you notification of our future content. We're going to continue on this same topic of the Berkshire Hathaway family on our next episode of Money, Motivation, and Mike. And then so until next time, live your life the right way.